Excuse me. Okay, so as this is such a small and informal group, I'm going to address you sitting down, if that's okay. Normally, I would, when I'm giving a talk, I would do so on my feet. But I just feel, as this is such a small group, I'm rather than give a big, major talk, I think the best thing to do is just to tell you my story, to tell you how I became a silhouette artist, as that's what my talk is based on. And if you want to speak or ask questions, please do, because I'm very happy for this to become a chat rather than speech delivered from me to you. My name is Charles Burns, as Jackie said. I'm a silhouette artist, which is an unusual and odd way of making a living. So the way I normally begin any talk is to demonstrate what I do. So with that in mind, I will look to the audience and ask for a volunteer to pose for a silhouette. Now I know you've all seen me do this before. Is there anyone here who has not had a silhouette done by me? Have I really never done your silhouette? And it's your birthday today. Isn't that amazing? That's crazy. Let's change places. I'm going to ask you to sit here, facing the audience, and I'm going to, I feel a bit like I'm going back to my past. I'm going to sit next to you in this chair here. The reason I feel like I'm going back to my past is this is exactly how I used to set up my street stand in Covent Garden, where I would sit someone perpendicular to myself, and I would sit with a chair facing them, and I will cut out their silhouette. So Tracy, I want you to just turn your head about 2 degrees to your left. That's perfect, yes, that's absolutely right like that. Now the way to cut a silhouette is very easy. I take a piece of paper in one hand, a pair of scissors in the other, and I cut it out. And that is really all there is to it. The technique is a technique I use called cut and poke. And essentially, I start at the front and cut around to the back. So I begin by cutting up the chest, around the chin, which is what I'm doing now, around the lower lip and the upper lip. And I keep going around, all the way around the paper until I reach the back of the head. And when you're working with paper and scissors, the idea is to keep the scissors pointing away from you. It's impossible to cut towards you. So I always cut by turning the paper through my right hand with my left hand. So cutting a silhouette is a very ambidextrous art. And the problem with that is, as you will see if you're observing me, when I'm cutting a silhouette, as I go around the back of the head, and you can see I've got Tracy's nose, chin, and mouth already so far. As I go around the back of the head, the whole image ends up upside down on the paper, which means I essentially have to invert the image in my mind, cutting what is up, cutting down, and cutting down what is up, and what is left goes to the right, etc., etc. So in that respect, cutting a silhouette is very different from drawing a portrait on paper, because the paper won't stay still, it keeps moving. When you're done, I'm just going to put in a few holes to indicate the back of your head. A few extra lines like this. Now, when people see me do this, the first question people mostly ask is, how on earth did you discover you could cut silhouettes? Because it seems to most people like quite a random sort of skill. People imagine, did I just wake up one morning and find I could cut silhouettes out of paper? So my talk today is largely aimed at answering that question. Before I do that, I'm just going to hold this all up so that you can see Tracy's silhouette.
Wow.
Well, there she is.
That's brilliant.
It's actually quite weird to be working in the flesh for me after the last 18 months or so. I've got very used to doing these on Zoom. And working on Zoom is fascinating because I can simply, much as we've done here today, my old Covent Garden setup is very similar. Everyone appears in little boxes on the screen, and I can simply ask them to turn to the side and cut their silhouette out. And it's such a simple thing. But I've been doing Zoom silhouettes of people all over the world, which I've really enjoyed. And it does feel like going back to my days in Covent Garden.
Right, can we take a picture?
Yes, do take a picture of that.
Yes.
You've even got glasses.
You need to, could you move a bit closer? That's
There we go,
better.
there we go.
That's better, that's much better, yeah. Wow.
Which camera am I looking at? We both need to look at the same camera, otherwise it doesn't work.
Really good.
Happy birthday, Tracy.
Thank you. It's so